Great. Good morning again. We're going to jump right into this. I want to say a special thank you to our council members and their offices for being here on our, we're going to start this morning with a vote on our Million Trees resolution, which has been distributed to you all. But first and foremost, we're going to start with a roll call. So Community Board 1.
Good morning, it's Tammy Meltzer from Community Board 1.
Good morning, Tammy. CB2?
Susan Ken. Here.
Welcome, Susan.
Good to be here.
CB3.
Good morning, Tariq Durrell for CB3.
Good morning, Tariq. CB4.
Good morning, Jeffrey LaFrancois, Board 4.
Welcome, Jeffrey. CB5.
Good morning, Craig Slutskin, pinch hitting for Vicky Barbero,
Great.
CB5.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks for being here. CB6. Oh, I don't see anybody. I don't see Kyle on yet. CB7.
Good morning, Beverly Donahue, CB7.
Thanks, Beverly. CB8.
Russell Squire from CB8.
Welcome, Russell. Hope last night wasn't too long. CB9.
Barry Weinberg for CB9.
Welcome, Barry. CB10 is joining us shortly. CB11.
Xavier Santiago, CB11.
Welcome, Xavier. Welcome, Xavier. And then CB12.
Good morning, Catherine Diaz, CB12.
Fantastic. Welcome, Catherine. Alrighty, guys, we're going to jump right into adoption of the April 20th, 2023 Borough Board meeting agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Move
So
to
moved, Xavier.
Thank you. A second.
Oh, wow.
Second,
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed or abstentions? Great. The agenda is adopted. Do I have approval of the March 16th, 2023 Borough Board meeting minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. A second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
aye.
Thank you. Any opposed or abstentions? The minutes pass. Now we're going to move on to our public hearing and vote on the Million More Trees initiative. This resolution has been distributed to you all beforehand. I'm just going to read the end of it so that we know what we're discussing. I want to also say thank you to our partners who have continued, and the advocates who have been pushing the New York City urban forest agenda. Thank you to Keisha Smith in our office, who's been working on engaging in individual community boards on this. I believe that most of your boards, not all of them, but most of them have had a chance to vote on this in the past, or vote on this individually. In kind of, I'll just say also in honor of Earth Day. It's April, it's springtime. We thought that this would be a good time to push this forward and bring this before the Borough Board. So I'm just going to read kind of the resolved piece to this, but it should be all distributed. It should have been sent to you beforehand. It says, resolve that Manhattan Borough Board supports the 5 borough presidents' goal of planting 1 million trees by 2030 and endorses the New York City urban forest agenda and adopts a goal of 30% tree canopy across the 5 boroughs by 2035. Be it further resolved that Manhattan Borough Board calls on the city to plant at least 1 million new trees citywide across public and private lands by 2030, with an emphasis on increasing equity in canopy distribution by expanding canopy in the most heat vulnerable communities and other environmental justice communities. Implement the city implement the New York City Forest Agenda, set a citywide goal of equitably achieving at least 30% canopy by 2035, develop and implement a citywide urban forest plan that centers health, well-being, climate resiliency, equity, environmental justice, and sustainability, support the development of community scale urban forest plans and goals, invest in urban forestry for workforce development, increase and equitably distribute public funds for public urban forestry projects, strengthen regulations and develop incentives to protect and increase urban forest canopy on private property, develop and establish tree planting and management standards for all property types, develop enabling conditions to transform wood waste into a sustainable local resource, track canopy and health changes over time, and invest in citywide stewardship, education, and events. I will open up the floor to any discussion, and then we'll look to see if there's a motion to vote. Susan, you had your hand raised before?
I did. I have not received a copy.
Oh, I apologize.
It's okay. I'm in transition now, so
Absolutely. Let me send it to you right now.
thank you.
If any members of the public would like to speak, please go ahead and raise your hand. Otherwise, if there is no other discussion, then do I have a motion to approve?
I move that we adopt the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed or abstentions? Then we will move to take a vote. We're going to start with our council members who and council member offices are here. I see Councilmember Sean Abreu.
Aye.
Thank you, council member. I see Councilmember De La Rosa.
I'm in the elevator, so it may
You're
get cut
perfect.
off, but
Thank you. I see Councilmember Ayala's office is represented by LC Encarnacion. LC, would you like to, are you voting on behalf of Councilmember Ayala?
I am, and I vote aye.
Thank you. I see Eddie Armador, I thought.
Yep. Hey, good morning, Tricia. I vote aye on behalf of Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you so much for being here. Am I missing any other council members' offices?
Yes, hi, Giselle Hearn for Councilmember Kristen Richardson Jordan.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry, Giselle, I missed you.
Okay.
Great. And you vote aye?
I do, aye.
Thank you. Forgive me, I am not always the best at making sure that I see everybody. Last call for any council member offices.
Tricia, I see a hand for District 6 in the attendees, which may
Thank
be
you. Yes, can we
Waiting for them to rejoin.
thank you. Okay, from there, we're gonna go, we'll take a roll call vote. Community Board 1.
Yes.
CB2,
Yes.
CB3,
Yes.
CB4,
yes.
CB5,
Yes.
CB6, District 6, it looks like it's Councilmember Brewer.
Vote
Councilmember Brewer,
aye.
aye, thank you. CB7,
Yes.
great. CB8,
Yes.
thank you. CB9,
Aye.
we will take CB10's vote when they come. CB11,
Absolutely aye.
thank you. CB12.
Yes.
Thank you. We will keep voting open. I told a few folks, including Borough President Levine, CB10, and assuming CB6 is able to join us and any other council members, we will keep voting open until the close of this meeting. But thank you all for being here. I'm gonna bring it back over to Councilmember Abreu if he'd like to give us any updates.
Thank you, Tricia. I'll keep it very brief. Last year, we passed a bill that would establish rat mitigation zones, and we're very proud to see that all of Harlem was included as part of a mitigation zone. It includes, I would say, 98% of Community Board 9. It goes from 110th up to 153rd Street. We are very excited for this. This is the first round of additional investment will actually be invested in this district. 3.5 million, that is. Where we are making sure that when we get complaints about hotspots that we're connecting with DOHMH and now the new rat czar, who can hope, we're hoping that we'll see a reduction of the rat population. We're fighting for right to counsel. The speaker included in her budget response at least 200 million. We need the state to cough up the other 200 million. If the state doesn't provide any meaningful investment there, we're looking at a bigger fight at the city, but we're hoping that the state comes through and does their part. We have also, we're expecting to be passed the ban on height and weight discrimination bill and sometime in May, so be on the lookout for that. We were proud to partner with Community Board 9 this past week for the Cannabis Community Forum. It was a very successful event. The borough president also joined as well. It was also a very great day. This upcoming Saturday, we're celebrating Earth Day by doing a community cleanup. It'll begin on 157th Street. So for CB12 members, even CB9, just a few blocks away, and to the community, you're more than welcome to join us. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you,
that'll be-
Councilmember. Thank
Yeah,
you so much,
12
Councilmember.
12 noon, sorry about that.
You're great. Thank you again for being here. Next, I saw just in order of folks who joined the call, Councilmember De La Rosa, would you like to give us any other updates?
Yes, I'll keep it very short. Today, the Committee for Civil Service and Labor is going to be holding an oversight hearing with the Public Housing Committee on Section 3 and employment of NYCHA tenants. It's a program that is federally funded, but it's important for us to be keeping tabs on the compliance from NYCHA. And so we'll be doing that today at 10 o'clock. And then just to piggyback on Sean, obviously the budget is the main item on the agenda. I'm the co-vice chair of the Progressive Caucus. Yesterday, we released our budget priorities, which include things like right to counsel. So thank you, Sean, for leading on that fight, but also mental health services and opposing further cuts to education. And then finally, Earth Day, there is going to be a sprinkling of events uptown, including a portion of Car Free Day happening on 181st and on Dyckman Street. Yeah, that's it. So thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for being here, Councilmember. Next, we're going to go to Councilmember Brewer.
Thank you very much. Just a few things. In terms of the homeless, we have 4 new shelters and safe havens. And so I am supportive, but it's rough. I will say in terms of the safe haven, we want it. But I think under SRO law, meaning that the certificate of occupancy, even though the city wants to put 4 people per room, by law, it can only be 2. So we're having that discussion, but there's a lot of pushback generally, as you can imagine. There's another building that is 124 children, all of whom are asylum in 74 rooms. And I have managed to get, I think, all of the co-ops and the those who manage the buildings to be supportive. And so if all goes well, those families will get a lot of support, but we'll see if that gets pulled off. In terms of schools, I was glad last night, it was always controversial. There was a merger of a couple of middle schools, but I am very adamant in keeping, as is Diana Ayala and others, and I want to thank the borough president, the West Side High School to keep it where it is. That's the Ed Reynolds High School for transfer students. And then there's an excellent young women's leadership in East Harlem that should stay there and find new space. So just so you know, that's a big deal. I also have found that with some of the bids, they are being very supportive of some of the high schools. And so we are figuring out a way to put onto the bid website how to support the high schools in terms of funding for the arts. And it's an idea that I think could be replicated elsewhere. Also, just continuing to work on the smoke shops. We seem to have more and more. I know that we've been working with the district attorney and the sheriff, and I understand there will be legislation coming from Albany. Today is marijuana day, so it's something that we need to put a lot more time into it. Some of them are within a few feet of schools. That is illegal. And so we're focusing on that. The 24th, which is Monday, is the family court oversight hearing in my committee oversight and investigations. We've been doing the investigations portion. These are the families. I don't know if you've ever been in family court, but these are the families that are hurt the most in our city. Whether they're kids who are dealing with criminal justice and foster care, or just families that are in disarray. And a lot of the, not Manhattan, but some of the other buildings are in really, really bad shape in the other boroughs. So that's gonna be a very interesting hearing. We all have participatory budgeting, so we are having, those issues have now been listed and now people are gonna vote on them. And I think they did vote, got 5 items and then 4 that we'll try to fund separately. In terms of the budget, there's so many issues that have to be addressed, but one that I'm focused on, the mayor cut a lot of oversight agencies. If you don't have Department of Investigations, you don't have Department, the Board of Correction, then you're not gonna have oversight. So trying to make sure that they get refunded in the borough. I do want to thank the mayor because soldiers and sailors, we just got the letter yesterday, $63 million allocated to that historic monument in Riverside Park, and it is now funded and ready for renovation. So today we're doing a district office open house in the afternoon. We're doing Jazzmobile on Sunday. We're doing part of recycling and Earth Day. We're doing a big recycling event also on Sunday. Housing clinics are ongoing. They're so fabulous because people can get lawyers once a month, every single month. Obviously, we're doing SCREE, we're doing a mammography grant. Then the older adult tech clinic is incredibly helpful to people, and we're doing one of those, Make Music New York, and of course, working with, I think, Councilmember Botcher, we're doing the Fresh Food for Seniors. It's going to start in June, and the seniors love that program. Thank you very, very much.
Councilmember, I think you have one question, so if you have time, Barry, go ahead.
Thank you, Councilmember Brewer. Just a quick question for the Committee on Oversight and Investigation hearing on the 24th. Is the public allowed to testify at those?
Absolutely, yes.
Great, thank you. I know we have a lot of families who get caught up in the system in CB9.
Absolutely, and there's no technology in the courts, and it's hard to communicate. People who we've been doing the investigation and the lawyers say they have never seen anything worse. So that'd be great.
Thanks, Councilmember. Okay, because we've changed our bylaws and those who are here representing other council member offices are serving as proxies, I want to open up, ask if any of the other representatives here, Elsie, Eddie, Giselle, or anybody else I may have overlooked, if they would like to give any other updates from those offices, go ahead and raise your hand and I'm happy to recognize you. Eddie, go ahead.
Thank you, Trisha, and good morning. Just a quick update. So I bring greetings from the council member. She's been on maternity leave, as many folks know, and we do expect her back very soon. So hopefully by the May 11th stated, she'll be back in person, back in action. And then this Saturday on Earth Day at 11:30 a.m., we're doing a community planting and tree care demonstration with local partners. We encourage you to get involved. Check out our events website. We're kicking off the East Side Tree Survey, which is something I did in Councilmember Gail Brewer's office last year. So thank you.
Thanks, Eddie. Again, once again, congratulations to Councilmember Rivera. Next, we're going to go to Giselle.
Yes, hi, everyone. I was asking if we can make my new legislator director, Jack McClatchy, a panelist so that he can give the updates. Thanks.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Dawn. Sorry about that, Jack.
It's okay.
And while we promote Jack, Elsie, would you care to give any additional updates from Ayala's office? No, certainly don't have to. Oh, she may be muted, but that's okay. We'll go to Jack.
All right. Thank you, Giselle. Thank you, Trisha. Hello, everyone. My name is Jack McClatchy. I'm the new Budget and Legislative Director for Councilmember Kristen Richardson Jordan. She sends her greetings and love to everybody on this call. For this Saturday, for Earth Day, we are joining an organization called Harlem Grown. If anybody is interested in joining us this Saturday, we can send over the flyer, and it will also be posted on our Instagram today. With participatory budgeting, we are very, very excited to be working with a national nonprofit named Radical Exchange to open the process up to more constituents in our district. And so we are having more and more people join the process each and every year, and we're very, very excited for that. And then one last update I would like to give is we have an upcoming town hall on housing on May 8th in our office at 163 Lenox Avenue and also on Zoom. If anybody would like to register for that, the information to register is on our Instagram as well.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Jack. Thanks for being here. And also if you have any other dates or anything else like that that we can share our flyers, we're happy to share those amongst the different community boards. So please feel free to send it my way. I see we've been joined by Councilmember Marte.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I can't be on video, but thank you for being here and all the work that you guys do. The only thing I wanted to bring up today was that yesterday during the Community Board 1 Quality of Life meeting, DDC and Gramercy, the contractor for the Borough-based jail in Chinatown, showed up really without notifying any elected officials about that they're going to move forward with the dismantling of the jail. They received their permits to demolish one tower, the 14-story tower, which is known as the Tombs. And we thought that this was really extremely disrespectful to the community board, who has been asking for a lot of information from the administration and to the elected officials who met with the administration, Department of Correction, and others 6 weeks ago, and asking for potential studies on adaptive reuse, which the community, which many of the elected officials support. And so we're going to continue to push this administration. I called the mayor's office a number of times last night, and we'll continue to follow up with them today. But I really want to thank the community board members for really, especially Tammy, the chair, for always being super persistent and making sure that members and residents are heard. So that's my only update. We'll know a lot more fairly soon, but I just wanted to give that update while it's still fresh.
Thank you, Councilmember. While you're here with us, can I get your vote on the Million Trees Initiative?
Yes, of course. I vote aye.
Thank you so much. And I see we have a representative from Councilmember Mannon's office who's joined us. I want to see if we can promote that speaker and see if also he would care to give us a vote on any updates and then any vote on Million Trees.
Hi, I have no updates on this time, and I will confirm with the council member in the next couple of minutes and get back to you with the vote on Million Trees.
Okay, thanks, Harry.
Thank you.
Unless I see any other council member offices, then I think we're gonna move forward with chair reports. I'm sorry, I know that Vicky is sick, and Craig, we're happy to have you from CV5, but I feel like I want to just give a little backstory as to why, we're trying a little bit of a more open-ended format this time. In my conversations with all of you as chairs over the past several months, Vicky had expressed a desire to have a little bit more open-ended, slightly less structured conversation amongst the chairs without an outside speaker, just to talk about any sort of, I don't know, either common issues facing that the boards are facing, or opportunities to collaborate. I want to emphasize that we are always open to having this conversation every month, but wanted to give some dedicated time to it this month. So I would ask that, I know I've spoken to a few of you about certain issues that your boards are facing, challenges or things that you thought it might be good to bring up among your fellow board chairs. I want to encourage you to do so again. There's really no agenda for this, so we'll just go through the updates as regular. But if there are things that you'd like to comment on, if you'd like to kind of call on other boards to see what their thoughts are on a certain thing, on a certain issue, then I absolutely encourage you to do so. And this extra time is certainly open for that kind of discussion. So with that, I think we're gonna jump right into it. It is April, so we're gonna go to CV4 first with Jeffrey.
Thanks, Trisha. It's convenient that I'm chair of board 4. April is also my birthday month, so it's nice that I get to start on my birthday month too. So thanks for this morning.
Birthday.
Thank you. Couple of updates from the West Side. We recently established a working group regarding the residential FAR cap in the state of New York. We've been talking about this for the past 16 months on board 4 through both of our land use committees as well as our housing committee. And the thrust of the working group is not to say whether or not the cap should be lifted, but if any changes are made to the multiple dwelling law, how should they be applied or how might they be applied to Community Board 4? We think it's important to have a proactive discussion on the matter. We are well versed in the fact that we are deep into a housing crisis, as average rents in Chelsea and Hell's Kitchen are well north of $4,000 a month, which is insanely unaffordable. And there needs to be a whole bunch of tools in the toolbox to approach this. So we are eager and excited about this working group. We had our first public meeting on the matter this past Monday. We had a former city planning commissioner who also happens to have been a former board 4 member, and 11. We had George James, a preservationist, and also an affordable housing developer from Taconic, who's done a lot of affordable housing work in our district. So these meetings are open to the public, and we'll continue to hear from experts as it relates to housing development and urban planning policy, and welcome anybody who is interested in attending to do so. And of course, all the meetings are viewable on our YouTube channel. So excited about this new working group. On the Port Authority, that behemoth in Hell's Kitchen that has continued to divide the neighborhood since it was brought to life there. We've been working for a number of years in discussions to redevelop the terminal, and had been working in earnest on a plan to bring that to life for the bulk of last year. And in the past 6 months, there's been a significant cooling as it relates to the port's willingness to answer questions and also engage and continue to move the project forward. And we're very concerned that the cooling temperature that we're getting from the port means they're not going to move forward with a redevelopment of the terminal that has broad and significant community support. And so we're working to educate the governor as well as our local elected officials to really continue to agitate and cajole towards a successful redevelopment of the terminal. It's everything about figuring out how to make sure that folks that are choosing to commute by bus from New Jersey don't end up on the streets of Hell's Kitchen in a way that affects quality of life and pedestrian access, and also creates a new terminal for intercity buses, which is a multi-decade ask we've been looking for. So we want to make sure we continue to hit hard on this and get a new terminal on 8th Avenue and also 9th Avenue. And then finally, a perennial issue for us is the Pier 92-94 lease and permit renewal with EDC, and the current permit holder is Vornado. For 14 years, Vornado has had the permits to redevelop Pier 92 and 94, bring significant improvements to pedestrian access and the Greenway, and they've failed to do this for 14 years. So now the city is again engaging with Vornado to give a permit in the promise of bringing a film studio to Pier 94, at the same time giving Pier 92 back to the city in a totally uninhabitable form. In fact, DOB has said it is not inhabitable. And so now it's on the tax dollars. It's on the taxpayer to take care of that. And so we're doubling down our efforts with this. We have very specific asks to make sure that the city is not on the hook for capital repairs, pier pilings, and the bulkhead, of which we have significant experience with as it relates to that, given Hudson River Park requires all of its commercial operators to pay for pier pilings and bulkhead maintenance. And if anything, let's send this RFP, let's make this public. Let's not continue to issue a permit to an operator who's done nothing for the past 14 years. And if that doesn't work, hand it over to Hudson River Park so they can generate revenue for the park and bring some more open space to the west side. So 3 significant and hot issues on board for everybody this morning. And I'm looking forward to further conversations with you all today. So thanks, Trisha.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Anybody want to ask any questions of that? Any kind of follow-up? If not, we'll move on. Jeffrey, just one actually from me. Oh, and I see Craig unmuted. So really quick, what's the timeline? Did we hear anything about timeline from the Pier 92
Well, so it was supposed to be finalized in January, and we have been
Yeah.
working hard on that, and it has since been pushed off multiple months, which I take as a good sign. We've been regularly engaging with EDC, but of course they won't comment on ongoing lease negotiations. And so, you know, the issue is CB4 does not object to the use at all of a film studio on Pier 94. It's just, is it just another ploy for Vornado to have this asset in its portfolio and not make any of the public improvements? So, you know, frankly, they could sign a new lease at any day, EDC and Vornado. And so I'm just continuing to beat the drum on this in the hopes that they actually don't, or they incorporate some of the very specific asks that we've made.
Okay, great. Thanks for more background here.
Sure.
Just want to note, Tammy, there are some folks making comments in the chat, which is totally great, and appreciate additional input here. Craig, did you have any questions on this or comments? Okay.
No.
No problem. So thanks, Jeffrey. We're gonna move on to CB5. Oh,
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, Craig. I see just really quickly, I see Harry Gale from Minutes office is ready to take a vote, and I'm gonna take down Marquise Harrison's vote too for our Million Trees initiative really quick.
Thank you, Tricia. The council member votes in the affirmative.
Thank you. And then Marquise, do you want to also, are you also able to give us your vote on the Million Trees initiative?
Yes, I vote for it.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, Craig. Thanks for your patience. Go ahead.
Oh, of course. So we had a very full meeting this month, but I do want to mention just one of the actions, which is MSG, which is something we've been living and breathing for years. And you've heard Vicky mention it many times over the past few months, but just a quick history. In New York City, for an arena with a capacity of over 2,500 to operate, you need a special operating permit. And in 1963, MSG was given their original special permit for a term of 50 years. In 2013, the permit expired and MSG had applied for a new special permit, requesting it in perpetuity. At the time, CPC recommended 15 years. The city council scaled it back to 10 years with the understanding that MSG needed to find a permanent solution of how to address the problem regarding its impact on Penn Station. You know, and the problem, as everybody knows, is that the garden sits above Penn Station, which makes it very difficult for Penn Station to cure its various ailments. Anyone who's been to Penn Station knows the terrible problems it has. Its overcapacity, its platforms are overcrowded and cramped due to the columns that support the arena, and its wayfinding is inadequate, just to name a few. Last December, MSG applied for a new special permit, and again, in perpetuity. In addition, this time around, city planning issued a proposal for a zoning text amendment to amend the findings under which the special permit must be found, which includes improvements to the public realm around MSG and that access to Penn must be enhanced. We've had 3 committee meetings and 2 public hearings where over 50 people spoke, and 50 people spoke and 200 people attended. This month, we voted on both the request for the new special permit and the zoning text amendment, and we strongly opposed the issuance of a permit in perpetuity and recommended a denial unless MSG agrees to pursue a permanent sustainable solution, including relocation, and that the length of the special permit is restricted to just 3 years. We issued additional recommendations regarding the public realm, the loading of tractor trailers, buses, and broadcast vehicles. And additionally, we urged full repeal of the real estate tax exemption. And finally, we urge the state legislature and the city council to adopt legislation banning the use of facial recognition to discriminate against patrons. As you've probably seen on the news, James Dolan, the CEO of MSG, has used facial recognition in ways that we don't feel are appropriate. As you may know, this coming Monday, CB5 is going to be holding a forum on the future of Penn Station at the Coleman Education Center at MoMA. It's co-sponsored by our friends at Community Boards 1, 4, and 8, and Councilmember Botcher, Assemblymember Simone, and Senators Kruger and Hoylman-Segal. Our panel includes Chris Ward, who's the former executive director of the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, Felicia Park Rogers, the director of regional infrastructure projects at the Tri-State Transportation Campaign, Peter Messick, the director of portfolio management at the Gateway Program for Amtrak, and Peter Cipriano, who's the senior VP at ASTM. So if you're interested in attending, please be sure to RSVP on our website. So that's the crux of what we're doing now. I do have one separate question just based on let's have a conversation about best practices, but it's not related to Penn Station MSG. So I just
Bring it
want to
on.
pause here. See if that's just pause here and thank everyone for indulging us on MSG Penn Station. This is a more of an administrative question. And Vicky asked me, she wanted me to ask our fellow chairs about one item for your practice on how you do your resos. And we traditionally at CB5 have not posted draft resolutions prior to their approval, but the question did come up. So we're curious if other boards are posting their resolutions on their websites prior to their full board positions. We always took the position that we wouldn't do that. They're in draft form. We don't show that to the public until after it's approved. But we're curious if other community boards are actually posting them on their websites before the full board meeting.
Yeah, I think Tammy wants to comment on that. Jeffrey has also added into this, so I'll give it to Tammy, and Jeffrey, if you want to add anything to.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
We post before the board meeting, whatever, after committee meetings when the resolutions are done, because there's a preliminary vote, we do post them in availability as part of the materials for full board. So if the public is coming to full board, they can see them. They are then taken down and final resolutions posted.
Yeah, I see Jeffrey, then we'll go Beverly, then Russell, and then I may ask Tommy to also weigh in on this one, just to from an open meeting standpoint.
Yeah, just the detail, we post five days before our full board meeting for both public review and then member review. And this is a real process point for us because if there's a contentious letter or a concern factor, oftentimes I'll fall on process. Somebody requests it tabled and the committee didn't get their letter in on time for proper review. We are able to sort of use the fact that the letter wasn't in on time for review if somebody's requesting it to be tabled. And it also just encourages everybody to make sure their letters are in on time. So that's a pretty strong practice for us.
Jeffrey, I just have one question on that. When is your exec meeting? Because our exec meeting is 2 days before, and to be perfectly blunt, most people don't get their resolutions in till like 5 minutes, that day, sometimes even 5 minutes before that exec committee. So what is the timeline? And
our exec committee is typically the third or fourth Monday of the month, and our full board is the first Wednesday. So typically you have a week and a couple of days between that.
Okay.
And then of course, if there's a letter coming out of exec, that needs to be, pumped out pretty quickly. So it typically works out. There's a couple times a year where it's a tight turnaround, but it does work out.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. Appreciate it.
Go ahead, Beverly, then Russell.
Yeah, this issue was raised by a very legal savvy member of the public for us, and so we put some time into it. We post draft resolutions for full board the Friday before our Tuesday full board meeting, and have done that regularly. The member of the public in question also believed that we needed to post prior to committee meetings anything that would be voted on in the committee. And we've been back and forth with Tommy on that particular concern. I think what we're doing now is where it is feasible, we will in fact post draft resolutions prior to committees, and where it is not, we will not. But we certainly have done so historically for full board.
Thanks, Beverly. We'll go to Russell and then Tommy, not to put you on the spot too much, but would love for you to weigh in if you can.
Happy to. So committee resolutions are part of the minutes for that committee meeting. And so those are up on the, those are incorporated there. And then our full board agenda includes links to the various committee meeting minutes that we're going to discuss in that meeting that have resolutions. So basically, as soon as the committee's minutes are ready and posted, then the resolutions that are part of those will be up there. And then as soon as we have the full board agenda set, we have the links set up there. So that's how we do it.
Russell, how far in advance are you putting up your agenda for the full board?
It varies. Sometimes, there are times where it is the same day, just because in some cases we have meetings that are, we notice the meeting, well in advance. But in terms of which specific committee reports we're going to hear, we may not necessarily have all of them until the day of, because, for example, if we have, a committee that's meeting the night before, then, their minutes won't be ready until that day.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Go ahead, Tommy.
Yeah, I'll just jump in there. So open meetings law does speak to this. The relevant provision is section 103E. And the open meetings law indicates that any meeting that's subject to open meetings law and open to the public, so that includes committee meetings, should be posting their resolutions, rules, laws, regulations, or policies that are going to be the subject of discussion at that meeting 24 hours in advance. There's a couple of caveats here, which I'll walk through. The first is that upon request. So if no one's requested them, then technically you wouldn't have to post them. Posting means to your website. If you maintain one, I think all the community boards have a website, so it would be to your website. The second caveat is to the extent, I think it's to the extent practicable, which means if you are still exchanging drafts, still within that 24-hour period, or there's, it takes you a long time to upload things to your website, and it wasn't finished within that 24-hour period, then, that could be a reason not to post something. But in some of the open meetings law opinions that I've read, it seems like if a copy of a resolution has been circulated to the board or to members of a committee in advance, like a week in advance of the meeting, then you're going to have a hard time saying that it wasn't practicable to post it to the website. The fact that it's a draft doesn't kind of get you out of it, because you could put draft on it, right? The fact is that that's the written documents that you will be discussing and subject to amendments at the actual meeting itself. So that's kind of what the open meetings law says about it. If there's any specific questions or circumstances, I'm happy to work through those with you.
Can I just ask one follow-up, and I'm sorry to hog the conversation. On the committee meetings, how would you do? Because we don't write resolutions until after the committee meeting, because we don't know what the resolution is going to say, right? We don't, someone comes up to apply for an event at Bryant Park. We don't know if we're going to approve it or not. We just don't know what the resolution's, and we don't even know all the details of it to even put in a resolution. So how would you, for a committee meeting, how would you mechanically do have the resolution posted a day before when you don't know what's going to be in that resolution? You don't even forget about having a draft.
So I think that gets to the practicable exception there, right? If you don't actually have a document that you're discussing, if you're kind of the purpose of the committee meeting is to draft the document, then you wouldn't have to post that in advance.
Okay.
I think the better example is really kind of the full board meeting where you have a draft reso that's going to be up for a vote or for discussion there. So where you have a written document that everyone's kind of going back and forth over. And that, frankly, the board members will have a draft of, but the members of the public wouldn't. I think those are the circumstances that, it would be expected that you post it.
Okay, so our exec committee meeting is on a Tuesday. We approve the agenda, discuss issues, and then we send the board office sends everything out to our members Wednesday for a Thursday night meeting. So you're saying basically our best practice, what we should do is simultaneous to sending it out to the full board on Wednesday, we should post somewhere on our website to the for the public.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Tommy. I don't know if I see Kyle from CV6. I just want to make sure that he's not here. Otherwise, we're going to go to CV7 with Beverly.
Good morning. Councilmember Brewer talked about the strong feelings in our district around various homeless issues. The safe haven at 83rd Street is still something we're managing. We brought a resolution in March that was tabled, and we're back again to vote in May on a revised version. The sites that have opened that are primarily being used for asylum seekers have raised a lot of grievances around fair share. So we're trying to gather data to address that. And they've also raised issues around the numbers of students from those sites that are in our schools, which are creating heavy burdens on the schools. So we're full force on those issues. Ambulance sirens is one that a number of our board members have been very concerned about. We understand there's pending legislation in city council relating to this, but that it's not been a high priority to pass. And so we're continuing to both research issues around ambulance sirens as well as to hold various sessions around that. Finally, after a number of months, we have passed a resolution at full board on east-west bike lanes. There was a argument around wording that went on for quite some time, whether we were asking for a study or a plan. But I think we've finally resolved that. We passed a resolution at our transportation committee this month on obscured license plates, which are causing huge revenue losses and tolls. And we're supporting pending legislation from Senator Hoylman Siegel and Guernardis at the state level on that issue. Finally, we received a notice from FEMA within the last several days of a Section 106 finding of an adverse effect to historic properties related to the plan for a new dock house at 79th Street Marina, which is undergoing major work. The dock house plan was for a 2-story large facility on stilts right adjacent to the Hudson River Greenway in a landmark park. And there's overwhelming negative response from the community to the initial design guidelines that were released by both Parks Department and EDC. While they presented an improved plan this week at our Parks Committee, it's still a very massive structure as compared to what was there before. And we will be both passing a resolution on this in our early May meeting, as well as gathering on our website public input on a form that we will also provide to FEMA. That's it.
Thanks, Beverly. Unless anybody has any questions for Beverly or any additional comments, we'll move on. But before we do so, Dawn or Eric, can we please promote Robin Forst? Just because Robin has asked to be part of the chat, or at least see the chat. And I think the only way that she can do that with our setup right now is for her to become a panelist. If anybody else, I think it's really Curtis or Andrew, who's on our office, and I'm sure he's okay, who would like to see the chat. You can also just raise your hand and we'll promote you. Otherwise, we're going to go to CB8.
Thank you. So we, at our meeting last night, which was not too long, thankfully, we passed a resolution in support of right to counsel for all New Yorkers who face losing their homes in legal proceedings. So as I understand it, this is a pretty live issue as we speak in Albany. So hopefully that gets passed and we're supportive of it. We tonight are going to have the first meeting of our task force on a rezoning Euler proposal by Memorial Sloan Kettering to expand their campus. So we're going to have a series of task force meetings, engaging with them on a number of different issues, and you know, really excited to be doing extensive public engagement on this process, and we're glad that they're doing that with us. So that all kind of kicks off tonight. we're going to be sending a letter to the Department of Transportation about open streets, and hopefully we can also discuss that at this meeting a little bit, because there were some emails among the chairs. Basically, the problem is that the DOT has really not given us much time to comment on their new proposed regulations. I think technically we only have until the 26th, which was really not enough time for, it sounds to me like, any boards to be able to meaningfully weigh in on this. And so the request from us is going to be to say, give us more time. And I think if we can do something related to that as a borough board, to sort of present a united front saying we all need more time, then that may carry some weight. And the other thing that we'll say in the letter, and whether we get into that at borough board, is just to say, the process needs more involvement from community boards. It should not be the case that open streets are being approved and then community boards are finding out about it. We should really be notified ahead of time and given the opportunity to actually weigh in on that. So that's coming up, and I will leave it there for my report.
Thanks, Russell. Tammy, I know you flagged this for me too. Do you want to add anything to this? And I'll just say we had a presentation from DOT at Borough Service Cabinet. It was back in December of last year on open streets, but would love to kind of better get a sense of what the issue is here and see where we can be helpful.
I'm super happy to say something. It's this is the rulemaking process for open streets and closed streets, which includes the application, the notification, the permit. It includes everything that affects the community, and yet the community boards were not included in a discussion about the rule the rule creation, let's say, or change, however you want to put it. And so I find it sort of untenable that you would be able to roll out a program that talks about opening and closing streets in communities without having the community boards in the engagement process. Every community board should have gotten a presentation, not just District Service Cabinet, because if you take a look at it, there's no provisions. For example, when we asked questions as well, follow-up questions, and we were told we couldn't have answers to follow-up questions because it's during a public comment period, which is odd for an agency to tell the community you can't get answers to your questions so you can provide public feedback during a public comment period, right? So none of this actually process is working for me, which does not give me a lot of faith in how the rollout of it's going to go anyway. Because when even we looked at it, we have people, this is not like a residential street in another borough. We live in a mixed use environment. So if you have people who are handicapped accessible needs, and an organization on that street decides they're going to close the street, there's no notification to the person who lives there that their street is going to be closed. How does that work? Why isn't the process to close a street like Street Fair or SLA, where there's public notification, public engagement? This is not, we don't all live in the same kind of neighborhoods. And yet the DOT has created a process for organizations to be able to close a street without including the community around it in anything other than a notification post decisions. So yeah, I think that we should be kicking back and they should be presenting to the community boards. And this needs to be a better rollout and consideration. There's no community board input at all in the process.
I thought that, so I just want to, and forgive me because maybe I'm the one who's confused. I thought that because CV3, for instance, had been really pushing, saying that the comment period should be, I think that there was community board process input being given for 30 days, but CV3 had kind of been leading the charge on saying that it should be 45 to 60 days, which we had relayed back to DOT, and that's what the comments were at this like December Borough Service Cabinet meeting that had happened, which was like there should be a like an extended period. So my understanding was that there was a period at which every community board could give input into like specific street closures that were being proposed for their district. But is that not correct? Am I wrong on that?
Well, it'd be interesting because DOT has not gone to most of the boards to talk to them about the rules, to present it. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear what other boards they presented to us. We had many questions, and none of them, outside the meeting, we were told could be answered, which I forwarded that response.
Yeah. And when you said they presented to you, they presented to you on the overall Open Streets program, or they presented to you on like the specific, what did they exactly present on?
It was our transportation committee who did all of the presenting. They were there to answer questions if they could. Like, for example, the definition of what a shared street was on an open street. And I asked whether, because we know uptown there are shared streets that have dedicated bike lanes in them to protect the bicycle riders. It doesn't say that that's actually a possibility to be included in the new rule. And so we asked, because we know that there's a precedent of it in other community boards, whether that was included or excluded. And we don't know, we didn't get any answers because there were no answers to give.
And forgive me, one more question for me, and then I'll go over. Who was the person from DOT who was there to answer questions?
Kate Shearer, who's the new rep, she, although didn't speak because I think it was her first day, she's CB 1, 2, and 3. And then let me look, and Jackie, I believe, was there.
Okay. Okay, thanks. We'll go to, I know folks have their hands raised, so I don't want to take up any more time with my questions. We'll go to Xavier, then Marquise, then Barry.
Hey, thank you very much, Trish, and thank you, Tammy. Sorry, I'm just at physical therapy right now. So saying they can't comment because they're open, it's in an open period is false. They can actually provide you detailed information. A lot of our partners that have worked with us in the Open Street programs in East Harlem, some of them are still confused about the rules and they have questions. As it comes to the presentation, they have not come this month. And I think that it would behoove all of us to be able to get more clarity on it. I think with DOT, we've historically in CB11 had a kind of touch and go relationship. With the advent of the Open Streets program, we had slightly more engagement, but they were in a state of overwhelm. I think in this particular situation, a more holistic approach, engaging each of the boards as we're all volunteers and public servants simultaneously, we should be able to have that information provided. And as we only meet most of our committees once a month, I would be supportive of a formal request to ask for more time and to present in May so we could actually opine on it in a more serious fashion. So that's a bit of information from our experience with DOT.
Thanks. Go ahead, Marquise, then Barry.
Yeah, I was just going to say we had at our last meeting, we had a lot of discussion and a lot of like questions and problems surrounding open streets. They presented to our transportation committee as well. And we were told that there's a public comment period that we're in, but we had questions that followed up. And if we waited to our next transportation committee meeting to share the feedback and things like that, we wouldn't have been able to provide open comment at all or any comment at all. And there were some concerns about some of the proposals. So when they came to us, they presented general information, and then they also presented 3 or 4 streets that were requesting to be open. And one of them particularly, we had questions about limited access streets, that one street that is closed in our community all the time, whether they're programming or not. And there's been a lot of feedback from both community members, board members, and it really caused a bit of a panic for my transportation chair and myself. So we had to create a letter where we lend public comment while also asking questions. But we don't know if we're going to get answers because we didn't want to miss that period. So we did have some concerns about their process and the fact that they need to extend that process so that we can get answers and then actually take a vote or do something after.
Okay, thanks, Marquise. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, big +1 on requiring an extension for the public comment and increased engagement from DOT. I was also wondering if I could give my CB9 update because I have to jump to another meeting in 10 minutes.
Oh, sure. Sorry, Barry. Okay, let me just say really quick. I'm taking notes on this, looking into this. We'll get back to everybody on when we can kind of address this further. Tammy may give you a call after this later on to talk about other do we need a borough board vote on this? I think from a process standpoint, I would need to like post something first, or at least share like what the resolution would be. I think
I'm just wondering whether it could be done under new business, and if it's simple as requesting that the rule change not go into effect until engagement is done, and push back.
It would be a simple resolution, but if we could just do it as a joint letter or need to do it as a joint letter, I mean, that's fine also, I feel like, but I mean, I think we want to have just essentially something written that reflects the sort of broad consensus of the borough board, and hopefully, you know, elected officials to send to DOT just to get them to extend the comment period.
Okay, let me, I would say my gut tells me that it may be better to do a letter amongst the chairs, just because I don't also have the electeds on to do a borough board vote, but I will look into that while Barry gives his report right now. Go ahead, Barry.
Appreciate it. It's been a very busy period for CB9 in terms of public engagement. As Councilmember Bray said, we had our cannabis task force hosted a community forum on cannabis on April 18th, Tuesday, which was very successful. And our senior issues committee is planning a senior resource fair from May 2nd, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at our offices on 133rd and Broadway. We've got the participation of a number of service providers and senior centers. And so it's going to be a very good opportunity for seniors to kind of re-engage in person, given that a lot of them still participate in the committee on telephone. And the Tenants Association at 3333 Broadway has also been doing senior digital literacy classes for the community, and we're trying to expand that program. Community Board 9 signed on to a letter about the governor's changes to the 340B program, which is a program by which mostly federally qualified health centers get significant discounts on their prescriptions that they fill, and then can use the money they save to fund other operations, like in the past COVID vaccines and testing, healthcare outreach and other things. The governor has proposed to basically centralize that and then distribute a pot of money instead to the FQHC. So we signed on with Callan Lord, Harlem United, Heritage Healthcare, and others. There is also going to be a historic preservation conference June 10th at City College that we're participating in. I encourage folks to attend, and I'll try to send information about that when there's an official notice. But you know, basically the question is, how do we continue to support historic preservation while kind of working towards the goals in the mayor's housing plan? And I'm also happy to report that we are now fully staffed. We have hired Keel Elliston as our second community assistant, which brings us up to a full-time employee count of 3. We tend to run pretty light at the board, but we're happy to have him on board. I also want to special call out and thanks to Jesse Bodine at CB4 for helping us work through our liquor license stipulations process. We have not usually had problems with liquor license applications or holders, but we've had 2 this past month, and we had to remember how to do a liquor license stip. And we're also considering a resolution this evening about a federally funded program, the Home Investment Partnership Program, which is administered through HPD as Home First Down Payment Assistance. Basically, it is a grant program that grants first-time home buyers under a certain income threshold up to 20% down payment for the first 100,000 of their purchase. Currently, the wait time to process an application at HPD is 6 months. So you can imagine how it's not a very useful program if you're trying to purchase a home. And we have a lot of limited income homeownership opportunities in the district, and we're missing out on federal dollars to assist in that. There's also going to be a town hall tonight at the Kennedy Center in CB10 on tenant interim lease buildings. These are buildings owned by the city of New York that were promised to be sold to the tenants when they were abandoned by their landlords, usually in the 70s, 80s, or 90s. The city has not converted them to HDFCs for the past 20 years and has instead been, claiming that they can't use city capital dollars to do this work, which is not true. They can use the capital dollars to fund hard construction costs on real property that the city owns. And so this town hall should be very interesting. And we're also hoping to partner with the Bond Center at City College to marry their kind of urban research programs into some of the interventions that we're trying to bring to the community so that we have good data and learnings from that. And a shout out to Councilmember Brewer, who helped give us the idea with the partnership with Fordham on the NYCHA outreach at Amsterdam Houses. We have had an issue with the LPC where an applicant came to us at the very last minute, a few days before our committee meeting, which was scheduled for Passover, in which we had to bump up the time, and then tried to go to the LPC in late April, not having shown us full drawings. So we're pushing the LPC to postpone that till May. We can have a full process with public comment that's not impacted by the holidays. And I also want to just note that 1727 Amsterdam continues to be a big issue for us. We still maintain that as city-owned land, it has to go through ULURP, which seems elementary, but they still want to demolish the building in the near future and redevelop it as 120 units of supportive housing in studio format, which we find inappropriate for the site. So a lot going on, but thus it ever was and probably ever shall be with community boards.
Thanks, Barry. Any feedback from folks? Any questions? Follow up from Barry? Okay, we're gonna keep on going. I'm still trying to figure out a few just process things here. So coming back to DOT, but let's go to Marquise.
Okay, I'll be very quick. Just some of the things that have been a primary concern for Community Board 10 at this point is really, we had a lot of discussion in the last couple of weeks about public safety. There were several shootings in Community Board 10, stabbings as well. And obviously there are things that are happening across the Manhattan borough that are showing alarming signs. And so we have been meeting as a board in our public safety committee and trying to collaborate with partners as well as our precincts that fall into our board to try to see what are some things that we can deal with. We are also working on making sure that we take a public stance on making sure that funding is maintained for youth programs and not cut in any way, as well as for education, because we think those are going to be critical as the summer is increasing. We saw some of the rise in crime last week during spring break for New York City Public Schools. And now as summer is approaching, it's something that we are very concerned about in our district. With that said, also, as far as public safety, and I shared with some of the other chairs, we also had a presentation recently about the strategic response group of the NYPD. And we were, as there's a call for banning the strategic response group across the city, and we weren't sure about, we haven't taken a position as of yet, but we're trying to figure out if maybe other boards were thinking about taking a position in any way about the strategic response group, or if trying to figure out too, I wanted to bring it forward to this body to see if there was anything we might want to say as the Manhattan Borough chairs about the strategic response group, because we weren't sure we absolutely wanted to call for banning it, but we wanted to figure out what other boards were thinking if there was something around that being discussed. Something that we're working on currently too, we've been heavily focused on mental health. For the month of May, we're having a mental health forum on May 4th. at the Kennedy Center in Community Board 10, which is a big collaboration between the Community Health Center and some others partners, as we also want to raise awareness around this in regards to we're connecting this with public safety. We also are planning next week, April 29th, we have a major cannabis forum, our second annual one, which we did last year, which is a huge success. And this is going to be outside on April 29th in collaboration with many partners. And so that's something we are also working on. I'll just give you some insight. Some of the things that we, in our last general board meeting, we passed a few or offered a few letters of support, not necessarily resolutions. We're supporting an initiative in Harlem to increase Black history in the schools and socioeconomic on Black history in schools and socioeconomic issues as a part of the curriculum. There's an effort going on with the Department of Education and to bring it to certain districts, the new curriculum. We also released several letters of support to the Manhattan Borough office, Manhattan Borough President's office, to support capital funding for some of our schools in District 5, which we think is critical. Again, we had a lot of conversation in our last meeting on open streets, was a dominating part about both our general board and our transportation committee meeting. And we offered support for 3 of those streets, but we had a lot of concerns that we put in the letter because we just didn't want to miss the public comment period. So we didn't want to make those community organizations think that we weren't supporting them, but we did have a lot of questions. And so our comment provided support for the work that those organizations do, while also offering a lot of questions and about the process in which and how this goes about. Going forth, we also ask that there's some more clarity as to how these streets operate and kind of how they're selected and how much freedom they get. Because again, we have a street that in our neighborhood that's closed pretty much all the time. When they're not programming, they have a gate there, and there was a lot of discussion about what does limited access mean. A barrier is provided to block the street, but they're saying that cars do have access, people do have access, but people don't necessarily feel comfortable removing a barrier to go into a street where there's no signage or anything of that nature. And so we had some concerns about that. I think outside of that, I think, we, as a part of public safety, I know that our public safety chair has also reached out to community boards 9, 11, and 12. We're trying to figure out if we could do some type of partnership around public safety in general for kind of the uptown area in general, where we've seen some rise in crime and violence. And that's all.
Thanks so much, Marquise. Sorry, I'm getting many text messages from some of you who are like about ready to leave. So let me just wrap up on this DOT piece here, just because if I lose you, I don't want to lose you. Kyle, I'm going to come to you in a hot second to give your vote on Million Trees. Barry, just hang on for me for 1 second here. So I think I'm hearing 2 issues. I'm hearing one about this public comment period, but Tammy, I'm a little confused because you said that there's no public comment period, but I distinctly remember there being
There's a public comment period. It's just that, in the beginning of this month, we got we had our committee chair present on the new rule stuff. So for us, it was in the beginning of April. We sent questions to DOT, questions we were told could not be answered.
Questions about the overall open streets program, or about your specific the specific proposals in your district?
About the rules.
Okay.
And structured and considerations. And we were told there could be no, I don't really understand how you can't get questions answered, but we gave them lots of questions. We were told we couldn't get questions answered.
Okay, so I'm hearing 2 things. So I think one simple piece to this is to try to invite DOT to come do a presentation on open streets to Borough Board, which is something that I'm happy to ask them to do. That would hopefully give us an opportunity to get questions answered about the overall process, and like what somebody was saying about bikes, about access, about who, that sort of thing. That is something that's easy. Another piece of this, I think, to Russell's point was and Marquise's point about like the extension of the public comment period, which I had heard before. I think is something that's feels a little bit more like a letter or a borough board resolution. I wanted to make sure from Tommy on the back end that just actually what Craig was talking about before, that we weren't going to get into any sticky situations about not posting a potential resolution. I got the okay from that. So I think that I'm comfortable with either doing some sort of letter that addresses and asks for additional like an expansion of that comment period or that public comment period. I think that no matter what, I guarantee, like for these two issues, I will say that we can invite DOT to come to do a presentation at Open Streets for the process piece and get those pieces done. But on this other part of extending the comment period, I leave it up to you all to decide, but I know that we're going to lose a lot of folks here in the next 2 minutes. So if folks would prefer to do a letter, then I would happy to help circulate a letter. If folks would rather do a borough board vote, we can entertain a vote here. What do y'all think?
I'm a firm believer in something that's official, that basically, because we shouldn't be required to do public comment until there's been a presentation to the public.
There's a I mean, I think either way, a letter on a letterhead versus a borough board vote are both official. Yeah, Russell.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of ambivalent either way, but I would say if someone wants a resolution, then I, propose it and we'll vote on it.
Okay, I think I think that I think it may be clearer to do it in a letter, honestly, and then I'm not rushing
It
to
just
get.
gives us a little more time to work it out.
Yeah, I think that feels a little better. Yeah, Susan?
The one thing we have to have is that clear presentation to everyone. We're struggling to get, hopefully we will have a presentation to CB2 in early May, but it's very scary for us. This is, it's a one size fits all. So many of our streets are not even on, they're not part of a grid pattern. We've got more outdoor dining than any, the multiple stresses on our streets are just so real that to not have a clear sense of what they're planning is like throws everybody into a state of, it's like it's going to be dumped on us.
Okay. Yeah, so I hear the request for DOT to explain this process and what their thinking is. I want to make sure I'm clear. I think that we're moving towards doing some sort of sign-on letter amongst all the chairs. We'll happily circulate it to the electeds. I think that what we discussed is this letter would be more so focused on expanding that comment period, unless I'm confused on that, but we can also discuss this offline. But I do promise you, we will reach out to DOT to see if they can't do a presentation next month for borough board. Yeah, Xavier?
If I'm hearing everyone correctly, then I would like to make a motion to send a letter requesting them to extend the comment period and welcome them to our May borough board meeting to address our concerns and bring answers to our questions that have previously been submitted on behalf of other boards that are aware of the new rules.
Okay.
Is it okay to present that?
So a motion to create a letter. Yes.
Second, I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed or abstentions? I'm going to say a roll call, a voice vote is okay on this one. And okay, we'll follow up. Kyle, can I get your vote, please, on Million Trees?
Thank you for accommodating my schedule this morning. Yes, we are in favor, CV6, of the Million More Trees initiative.
Thank you. Okay, I think, I'm sorry, guys, I just want to make sure okay, nobody else comment. I know Barry's out. I know Marquise is out. I think Kyle may be having a time sensitive agenda today. I think we're moving on to 11.
Does Kyle want to give his report since he was missing the
Thank
beginning?
you. Thank you, Xavier. Kyle, would you like to give your report now?
No big report. We'll waive our report for this month.
Okay. Thanks, Kyle. Okay, thanks, guys. Sorry, I'm juggling multiple lines of communication. We're gonna go to CB11.
Okay, thank you, Trish, and everyone for your patience and tolerances. I'm getting physical therapy for the lower back. Old bones, right? Let's see. Tonight we have our executive committee meeting. We have a little bit of a contentious issue with a application in Lighthouse Fish Market. It was kicked over from our license and permits. Again, at the beginning of this year, as I shared in my first report, is that we ask ourselves 3 questions at CB11, which is, have they been, are they being, or will they be a good community partner and neighbor? This particular location presented to our board and then changed and added another business. We've received new information, including, but not limited to, that they are not following the rules that they had agreed to. So we're going to be dealing with that tonight and a few other issues, including meeting efficiency, et cetera, and so on. Tomorrow, please, if you can, if you're available, 10 a.m., Museum of the City of New York, come out to our 2nd annual Earth Day conference. I know we've invited the BP and other electeds who have responded, and we looking forward to a very collaborative event. It was very successful last year. So 10 a.m. tomorrow, Museum of the City of New York. Updates, right now we're waiting for information. We had foiled from DOH-MH regarding substance abuse issues and trying to collect that data. They have been non-responsive thus far in that FOIL request. However, we are going to send a secondary. Thank you very much, Tommy, for your help and guidance. We also, as you've seen in the news, and Marquise, who I was very appreciative, we are trying to work together, all our uptown boards, to address not just the quality of life, but the crime that's going on. You've seen all the shootings that are happening, especially over spring break, that happened in East Harlem, Central Harlem, et cetera, and Inwood, Washington Heights. Really trying to come together and find a holistic solution. So thank you for leaning into that. We, in last month's 25th Precinct Council meeting, the representative for the District Attorney of New York had made mention that a lot of our ire is getting misplaced onto not just us as community boards, but in general, the public, to the DA's office instead of it placing on the legislators, such as those in Albany. They specifically called out discovery reform as something that is hamstringing them. Again, we asked, after having a public safety meeting, thank you to Deputy Speaker Ayala for hosting that, not just this month, but a couple months prior. Stella Stryker Santiago, we had a conversation. She was supposed to carve out the data from the website that was particular to the 2523 and PSA 5 as it came to particular issues, so that we could actually examine the decline to prosecutes or plead downs, et cetera, and so on, and take actual policy positions. So we're waiting for that information, but it's been about 10 weeks now. So again, it's something we're trying to really let the data lead us in the conversation. Let's see. Thank you also very much for Barry mentioning the event tonight with Palante. Until it was brought to my attention while I was away visiting my abuelita, who just turned 98, that there is actually a lawsuit against HPD with the Till building on Pleasant Avenue in our district. Currently going through that. I think it's going to be a very great event. Unfortunately, I can't be there because of the executive committee tonight. And the last little bit I want to share with, we had a presentation. We're going to have time for public comment at full board next Wednesday. So it's a shift from Tuesday to Wednesday. When it comes to the Ascendant development at 106th Street, the 32-unit dorm style building for those that are LGBTQ plus homeless youth. Very important thing that we're dealing with. The land use committee, as I was quoted, was very taken with the project. However, Ascendant is going to present to our housing, our human services, and a few others. So that's the update for right now. I hope I can see some of you at the Earth Day conference. And to the comment earlier about giving more space for us to talk, that was one of the comments that was made when we had our chair get together. I'm going to have to tag one of us to take up the next one. Hope to have you out, Trish, at that. And so we can actually have a more holistic conversation to deal with some of our issues that we have with the agencies. As I commented previously, it seems like there's a constant pivot left, right, and center, and CAU is working their tails off. And I think with our partners at CAU, they're somewhat from time to time frustrated with the agency's responses as well. So again, look forward to working together. Thank you very much. And that concludes my report.
Thanks, Xavier. I want to give everybody an opportunity to ask any additional questions, but I do see that we've been joined by our borough president from out in the field somewhere. Borough President, when you give your report, if you could just also cast your vote for the Million Trees resolution.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tricia. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Sorry for the weird location. Just been speaking at an event this morning here in Community Board 5, talking about our housing plan. And I'm really excited that the day before Earth Day, I get to vote on the planting of 1 million more trees in New York City. So you want to do that officially and record me as an I?
Recorded. Thank you.
Awesome. Great news. I want to welcome Susan Kent as the new chair of Community Board 12. We got to hang out a little bit yesterday. Excuse me, Community Board 2. We got to hang out a little bit yesterday, taking a tour of the new NYU building on Mercer Street, which I think everyone in the borough should know about. It's like a vertical city. It's a massive project, but I think it's a great example of how community boards can shape a project like this for the better, because CB2 spent years fighting for all sorts of publicly accessible amenities in the project, and they succeeded in a lot of important ways. It was great to see the fruits of that effort. So congratulations, Susan and everyone at CB2. On a slightly more somber note, I just wanted to spend a minute talking about the garage collapse on Ann Street. You know, it's a location about 2 blocks from our office, so I was able to be on site almost immediately, and it's really just a horrific event. I got to see drone images from inside, and I'm not sure if those have been shared publicly, but they portray a scene that looks like something out of a disaster movie, with cars just tossed around and crushed, and every floor plate in the building collapsed. It's as tragic as it is that we've suffered 1 death. It's miraculous that the other 5 workers made it out. But I think for all of us in Manhattan, it raises questions we need to address about the safety of garages in the borough, and particularly older buildings. This building on Ann Street is from 1925, and there are a lot of garages in use in every one of our community boards that are as old as that. In fact, some are even older. Some date from when they weren't used for automobiles; they were used for carriages pulled by horses, which obviously do not weigh as much as a modern 3,000-pound SUV. And in fact, there were over 50 cars on the roof of this building, and the certificate of occupancy just said 5 cars or more per floor. So, boy, I'm not sure it was envisioned. A C of O from 1957, by the way. Not sure it was envisioned that it would be used for so many cars, such heavy cars. So we're doing some work in my office and looking at policy around this. I'll remind you that in 2021, we passed a new law that will require additional inspections for garages above and beyond what normal building would need. A certified engineer has to evaluate them for structural integrity. That is taking effect, the first place in the city in Manhattan Community Boards 1 through 7. It is taking effect this year, actually. All of you should know that. But the first reports aren't due, I think, until December. So for this garage and other garages in your boroughs, those even if those studies are done, the reports might not be in yet. But we want to keep an eye on that as those reports start to come in from garages, particularly in CBs 1 through 7. And as I said, I think maybe we want to look at even adding further protections based on car capacity. So finally, I'll just say that we are well into our community board application interview process. It's been great so far. Shout out to Tricia and the team for just running an incredible process. And thanks to all of you who've already been able to attend one of the interviews. If by chance any of you have board members who haven't been able to come to an interview, they got several more chances, but not unlimited. So please make sure that all your returning members get in for an interview. Don't want anyone to miss that out. I'm going to pause there and send it back to you. Thank you so much, Tricia, and thanks to everyone for being here today.
Thanks, Board President. Alrighty, guys, I think with that, we're gonna keep on going unless anybody has anything that they want to add to the conversation that we left off with Xavier. Great, we're gonna go on to Catherine.
Hi, good morning, everyone. All right, CB12. This month we had, and every spring we tend to really focus on, or usually have about 1 or 2 joint committee meetings. This is the season, of course, because of so much of our parkland, a lot of what Marquise was sharing around public safety concerns, and even around traffic. We tend to have joint meetings during this time so that all committees are briefed before the summer break, and are able to kind of share some feedback with some of those agencies. So this is our second this year so far between our public safety and our traffic and transportation committee that obviously overlap many, many times. So those went really well. Just, again, for the record, we did not receive notice around the open streets. And so, nor with the SRG, of what Marquise mentioned. So we'll definitely be following up with that. We have our district service cabinet meeting today, so hopefully I can get an update there. Our last the last district meeting around the Sherman waterfront and the Academy Street Cove will be on Monday. So I believe either before the break or right after the break, we'll get the full report. So I'd be super happy to share that here in terms of what the visioning sessions resulted in. And then I guess to share kind of more, some more kind of like internal news. We've been really focused a lot on efficacy on our board and really kind of learning from many of the practices and guides and tools that other boards have. So we did some reflecting at our executive committee meeting this month in terms of our first quarter as an elected team. We're all new onto board leadership. So it was a really great opportunity to take a step back. Definitely, I know quarterly is a little difficult to do that with the amount of business many of us have, but being able to do that at least once or twice a year would be nice. Second, one of the things that we are going to be working on over the next few months is a pilot, or I think it's a pilot project because we are the first community board to work with them, which is a service design studio. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. They're an initiative of EDC, and they support essentially agencies improve their services by, really kind of working in terms of, what's public participation looking like. So they've partnered, for example, with ACS in the past. And I approached them actually on a whole different topic and learned about the work that they do, which is a free service. And so we landed on a pilot project addressing community engagement on the board. Obviously, we all know that there are folks who are incredibly loyal to boards and are present every single month and are incredibly active, but we definitely want to focus on building awareness and recognition of the board across the district, and also that certain voices who never come to our board, we want to be able to engage them better. And so essentially it's about a 6-month pilot project that will include some surveying with boards, with board members, with community residents, some trainings, and a lot of their trainings and tools are available for free on their website. So I can share that in the chat. And being able to kind of like cement a standard practice to community engagement or expectation for our board. So we're pretty excited about that. It's something that we debate often, given that some folks, come from a heavy background of community engagement. And then we have some chairs that are newer, who, may be really great at a content area, but, outreach engagement standards are a little different for them. So being able to kind of build something standard for our board and being able to kind of train folks and have tools available for them, I think would be really great for our sustainability and even I think expectations for agencies, right? Given everything that we've spoken about today of what community engagement means to us. So I'm excited about that. I'll definitely keep updating you all. And when we have that set up, and I think that's where I'll leave it for today.
Thanks so much, Catherine. You guys, really great questions, of course. Any additional feedback, comments from any of the other chairs? I'd say keep us posted on how those conversations go regarding engagement and how you start to touch base with groups who may be less, may have had less of a history with engaging with community boards. I think it'd be great. Next, we're going to go to CB1.
Hey, thank you very much. And thanks, Catherine. I'm curious to see, we also have lots of advocacy in CB1, but there's always new people who move into the district, and finding ways to engage with new constituents would be great to learn more about. I'm going to start by saying that it's been a rough month for CB1, right? We're seeing the city seek to sort of silence public engagement in all its agencies. It's clear to us that city agencies from DDC to DOT are not interested in including the community in everything from feedback on new rules to providing information. We've had 3 years of foils that have gone on with DDC in regards to the borough-based jail system. Follow up with complaints, follow up with difference, follow up with all kinds of different city agencies. And some of it affects quality of life, others promises made to the city. We're really very frustrated. I appreciate where Mark is going. The tragedy in Ann Street was intense, but I'm going to put that back and say, where was the enforcement on DOB for the violations? Why is it easier for a building to pay an $800 fee for a violation than to fix the problems? And where was the inspections that followed up on that? So from everything I appreciate Chris and our electeds, both in the state and the assembly and our congressional, coming forward to try and work with the city about the borough-based jails. Promises were made about documentation that we were going to get. After years and years of foils, we got part, not all, still and again. The entire conversation with DDC and the city was, we are all about engagement and transparency, transparency, transparency. I am on a soapbox today saying I'm not feeling the transparency from City Hall. And I am frustrated. And that is the most polite word that I can use. I just don't understand how we can work with the city, advocate for the community, if the community is not given the opportunity to get the information, to actually be opined in the room and potentially hear the feedback and listen to. I'm beyond today. So I'm sorry for being perhaps a bit of a negative Nelly on a meeting that's usually one of the most productive meetings that we have. I do think that we need as a board and as a board chairs to be far more communicative back and forth, because I'm really glad to know that some of the other CBs didn't get a presentation, because it doesn't make me feel like we were so alone. When our transportation chair took the initiative to do it, thank the good Lord. But that should have come from the agencies. And when you look at the rulemaking process with DOT, there is no engagement with the community. We have an extraordinarily robust licensing committee. We're quite busy in Lower Manhattan with licensing. And yet I think that the way that the SLA operates, with notices to the public, notices from the community board, an opportunity to discuss what's going on, is the best setup in terms of community engagement. It doesn't always work great. Certainly there are complaints back and forth, but at least as a community board, you feel engaged. Is open restaurants going that way? No. Open streets? No. I'm at a loss as to how you can have city agencies that directly affect quality of life have continually cutting out the community board as if we're problems. Planning for a city and solutions work best when you get the advocacy and the support of the local community. That's all we want, is a seat at the table. So let's get the community board back in the process, not as the complaint department that forwards complaints and hope that the city agency does something, but in the beginning where we can help the city agencies and we can help the public. And with that, I'm going to close.
Thanks, Tammy. Leaving it open. I see Xavier would like to comment. Go ahead.
Thank you, Trish, and thank you, Tammy. I think and it's been said both privately and publicly, I think we're all very much aware that the previous administration had a complete disdain for community boards and our input, and that trickled down to the agencies. And I'm hopeful, and I would like to see a resurgence of our charter mandated strength and in regards to working together to solve the city's problems. And as I mentioned earlier in my report, the frustration that CAU is experiencing, I think, to put it most eloquently, I think we're seeing with a lot of the new faces out there in city governance and bureaucracy, is that it's resulted in what could only be eloquently described as a centralized form of management that's necessary in order to get things done, but that often leads to what we're experiencing today. Again, when you came up, when we had our chair meeting, I stand ready, as does our entire board, to find tenable solutions to these problems and work with all our city partners and agencies. So whatever we can do to collaborate and coalesce, our CB11 stands ready.
Thanks, Xavier. We're going to continue on with CB2.
First of all, I just want to say it's great to be here. This is my first meeting. I just started as the new chair as the first of this month. But I have to say it's very fortunate that my report follows Tammy's, because I want to echo completely what she's saying. We are experiencing, this same lack of communication on critical issues that we need to be a part of upfront in order to realize the projects, in providing the best possible result for the communities. And there are two things that are really, and this involves multiple agencies. It's like it is a uniform problem no matter which agency you seem to deal with. The first one is a housing issue. We are fortunate to have at 388 Hudson Street an open space. It's one of our very rare open spaces for the construction of affordable housing. Now, this is was a water tunnel site, and the southern part of the site has to remain open for DEP access, but the northern half, we are being promised affordable housing. But it seems is that we can't get the kinds of answers. We can't get zoning analysis. We cannot get an answer why, for example, the southern half of the site is the size that they say they need, and that based on our understanding of the northern half of the site for housing, what the estimates of what we're being offered and sort of the prototypes would literally offer only half the amount of housing that we believe is possible. We believe, based on the current FAR, on the current potential of the site, based on other precedents of uses of similar sites, we could literally offer the community double the amount of housing that the city is saying is possible. And we're trying to engage on this. At the same time, HPD says they're going to move forward with an RFP, when we're saying, no, we have to get these threshold issues resolved so we know what we're able to offer. We know that there are, where the massing is going to occur on the site so that we know who's going to be affected. Because we've got one of the things we pointed out is the fact that because this is on, this abuts an area that has to remain open in perpetuity, that some of the requirements that they're talking about, such as a setback, is unnecessary, which would again cost us many units of affordable housing. You know, CB2 is actively losing the housing because in some of our areas, the purchase of formerly multi-unit dwellings and the conversion into single unit homes is actually causing significant drops in the number of units that we have. And this is a rare opportunity, and we keep this silence that we keep experiencing, or sort of the pat response that, okay, we hear you, but the process moves on the way it always moves on. And that it's like, we're not talking about doing anything radical. Everything that we propose is already doable under the current law, under the current FAR. And it's like, how can the city talk about wanting housing? And here we are presenting a plan, and then they want to cut it in half. So this is extreme frustration that we, you know, and we're not giving up on it. We don't have open sites. You know, a lot of our district area is historically marked. So this is a very special location. We need to maximize it. And, you know, it's just very frustrating. The second sort of matter that I want, which also connects to lack of silence, is we had an application for an open street event. We have a brand new Museum of Cannabis that is opening on Lower Broadway. Today is 4/20. They wanted to have an event today, close an entire street, have a block party. And the problem in this case was the fact that we got this application beginning of the month. It was heard in committee, but even if it's voted on today at today's full board meeting, it means that the recommendation is pointless. Fortunately, we were able to work with this applicant and point out the serious safety risks involved. In this case, the nature of the event they wanted to hold, which included probable appearances by celebrity performers, we know could very likely cause a massive surge of people who would respond to, you know, just social media tweets. And we convinced them to bring this event indoors and avoid what could have been, you know, just an overwhelming of the site by potentially thousands of people. And this is this problem keeps going on again and again and again. We get many applications every month for outdoor events, whether they're street closings, partial sidewalk closings, lane closings, and we don't have enough time, even though we handle them as quickly as they come in, to actually work on them, vote on them, get the word out. In this case, not only is our voice being silenced in terms of responding to the city, but we were unable to help this applicant because we didn't have enough time to work out a solution so that they might not have had to, you know, cut back their event as they wanted to. So everybody lost in this process, but this happens again and again. And it's like, we're not really part of the process. They send it to us, but it's like, they don't care whether or not we respond. And I have to say, I brought this particular one to light because we've seen events where just the release of a new product release is, you know, suddenly people are notified, and we can get surges of people lining up on streets just to buy, you know, brand new sneakers. This one would have taken it to a whole new level, and yet there's just no consideration of, you know, if we hadn't pushed back, you know, I don't want to be in a position to have to say, like a garage falling. It's like, oh, this was terrible. Oh, we tried to warn you. I want to be part of a process that gets out ahead of this so that we're recognizing the demand for access to our streets is great. Let's be constructive, let's be proactive instead of this process where we're always playing catch up. So those were the two things that I wanted to share. And yes, we really are like the four cousins, and we're not really seen as part of the process. That's enough for my first meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. Jeffrey, you're unmuted. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Susan, I was reading about the Hudson Street site yesterday in the Patch article, and I'd be happy to chat with you if you'd like. We have a DEP housing site on 10th Avenue and 48th Street that is already through its ULERT process and has all the approvals. And I think your points about the lot line windows that shouldn't apply and how to actually increase the density. So happy to chat on how we may be able to use what we did on 10th Avenue to help you guys down on Hudson.
I would love to, and I want to point out that we actually used your example, presented it to DEP, and HPD and say, look, we're not trying to forge, into new territory. It's been done. You've approved it. It's successful. Let's just repeat this. And look what we're trying to get out of it, And it's like, it's as though it never happened. So, but yes, we will be in touch.
Okay, so it is close to 10:30. Xavier, I see your hand is up, but I'm assuming that that's just a remnant from earlier. Yep. Okay. It's close to 10:30. I think that Tariq has informed me that he had to leave, and so he'll be giving us his updates that will integrate into our minutes. I really appreciate everybody's comments here today. Clearly, we could spend a whole other hour kind of diving into further some of these conversations. What I'll say is that this borough board meeting should never be the only time that everybody feels that they can reach out to other chairs or they can reach out to us. You all know that, I think, very well at this point, because I have conversations with you throughout the month all the time. But if there's something that could be, I mean, I think, Susan, you can see this, but for everybody, it's worth repeating that the willingness to collaborate and the willingness to try to strategize on ways to address some of these similar issues is really strong amongst the chairs. There's a lot of camaraderie amongst the chairs and the boards in Manhattan. So to the extent that you can use your fellow chairs and our office as a resource, you should always know that we're here. I'm going to follow up on a couple notes here that I see. I just want to give one more update before we adjourn here, but you know that my unit in particular is kind of like head deep, like all the way in on community board applications and appointments right now. So to reiterate the point that the BP made, if you have board members who are applying for reappointment, please, I would ask your help in just gently reminding them that they all should be participating in an interview. I think I just was able to finish looking at every list here to make sure those current board members were, got their applications in, but I want to, we have 3 more interview sessions left. It's a real pain in the neck to try to hold the same rubric against everybody when somebody doesn't, participate fully in the process. So if you could please gently remind your board members that they should have received an email from us. They all did. They've all received multiple emails from us. It's easy to ignore us. Please don't ignore us. Tell them to make sure that they're signed up for an interview. We're trying to get this process done in the next 2-ish weeks. And I'm with a goal. I'm really trying to get these appointments done before CB2's meeting. Actually, speaking of Susan, that's my kind of internal date. So I'm trying for that first week of May. So please do remind your board members, and we'll be coming back to you very, very soon, just kind of with updates for your individual boards. And thanks again for your patience and input into the process. Without any other, if there's nothing else that anybody would like to add, then I would say, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion
So
to
moved.
adjourn.
Thanks, everybody.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Oops.
Aye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Everybody. Happy birthday, Jeffrey.
Thanks, Tammy. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, Tariq.